With apologies in advance to what's about to happen, welcome to Canceled Guest Syndrome. It's Jet Theory Radio. Live from the ATX, welcome to Jet Theory Radio. This is episode number 17. I am David, but you may know me better as the one they call Jetter. I want to thank you for tuning in and giving us your ear here for a few moments while we sit down and, we're going to have a discussion, but unfortunately, life things happen. So for the second time in a row, and my apologies if I bore the tears out of you myself, but it's just going to be me solo here on this podcast. So yeah, no one else is around here. No voice of reason, Mr. Gail Murn, Mr. Shady Justice, or however you think to refer to him as, and no guest. Unfortunately, we did have a guest lined up for recording, but life things happened, and there couldn't be a reschedule or anything like that done. So here we are, and here we go. The topics that we're going to be talking a little bit about this week. Just some random thoughts about writing in general coming from me as we, explore a little bit more of the original material and stuff like that for the podcast, what I'm thinking of and doing there. More developing with the podcast, obviously. And, the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is just the Instagram pics that we've been sharing. So I've been taking a lot, and I've been posting one a day here for the past little while. I've been taking a lot of pictures and stuff of various scenes in Austin that I run into, places that I visit, places that I see, and then I also take pictures of little toys and stuff like that I have and take the Jet Theory Radio logo attached there to them. It's something that I find fun, and it's been getting a lot of people following us on the Instagram. So thank you if you are following us. Keep liking it if you like it, and we'll continue to do the same for anything cool that you put on the Instagram. Same with any of the social media and stuff like that. Twitter's been really dormant on the side of the podcast here, but if you follow me at my own personal Twitter handle at DJETTER, at my personal Twitter handle, and that is at DJETTER0801. You can follow along there. Some more political type stuff here lately because that just seems to be the thing that everybody's on Twitter ranting about. Because, hey, we follow the example, I guess, of the president, where, if he's going to be on Twitter rambling away, hey, why not everybody else in America? So that's where you'll find some more, personal stuff of mine. But one of the things that I got up this morning and I had to hammer out because a thought came to my mind about, things to do for this podcast to make them a little bit more interesting and unique there for anyone listening. I have some old writings out there on the internet that pretty much I tried to find, and after a few moments I was just took a step back and I was like, I need to write down the thoughts that are going on in my head because it's all related in some weird way. So bear with me as we go through this here, and we'll see how this works. So today I was trying to find something on the internet. Not a hard thing for a guy to do. Found his biological father's contact information before Google came around and made things easy. But it wasn't so much having trouble finding it that made me pause and question what I was doing. It was more, should I? Glossing over many details, I wanted to find my biological father years ago, and my mom was against it until I turned 18. At that magical number, I went out searching and actually was able to locate a phone number and gave him a call. I didn't think too much about the ramifications or what would happen after, but it equals part youth and stubbornness that drove me to do it. Looking at it in the long terms of the story, I haven't talked to him since. But the strange thing for me is how this relates to today is that I tried to find some old writings that I did back in the heyday of community college. This was about 2003, so bordering on 15 years ago. There was an online creative writing class, and I thought that I'd save the writings on the internet in some form, so off I went searching. Since searching and finding things on the internet isn't too difficult to me, why not give it a try? Um, and really interesting side note from this, Facebook notes are really, really interesting to try, go through and scavenge through. If you get the chance, check out the notes section, and you see essentially the history of like all your friends, and no like kind of like order or anything like that, because I was scrolling through for pages just trying to find my own, and it would jump from posts that friends left in 2011 to posts that friends left in 2016 to posts that friends left in 2008. Just jumped across the board there. I don't know what the reason or thought behind it is, but hey, I don't program like that, so maybe there is something weird there. But anyway, not having any luck in finding that stuff on the notes, which on Facebook, which I was pretty sure is where I had posted it at one point. I remember that I had writings on LiveJournal, which LiveJournal, if you don't know or don't remember, it was pretty much an online blogging / online diary form that you could have years ago, and it was really popular. Came up. I had posted a lot of like my early comic reviews that I did online and stuff like that was posted to LiveJournal, old writings, and just whatever was bothering me and back in that time of my life, I would write about and post there. So I tried some Google searches just to see what existed in the LiveJournal and if searching for that and my name would bring up any results. And that's when I had a stopping point. In the search results that I was seeing, I saw and I remembered that LiveJournal is actually owned by a Russian company. Now, in light of all the recent news involving Russia, I worried for a moment that if I tried to log into an old account, and that is a big if, even if it still exists at all, would I be giving my information over to Russia? Now, knowing that this is a political thing, hang with me in case you're on any other kind of podium, just to go with the story here. Okay. Now, we always want to say that the internet can never forget, that we should watch what we put on there in case someone goes digging. And here I am digging into my own past, and I'm worried about the vulnerability of getting to that information. My information, my thoughts from what I put to that LiveJournal site years ago, is probably searchable and recoverable in some form, some way. I'm wondering more of if I should go out and find it, which is something I never really cared about when it comes to the internet. In some cases, like the search for my biological father, it seems like someone wants to put that information out there into the ether in order for it to be found. In this scenario, should I really go and find my old writings to bring up that old thing and rehash it for something new in my life? Remember, when I was talking about the Facebook notes earlier, it was because I had posted it originally on LiveJournal, also on Facebook Notes, and also, now that I think about it, probably on MySpace as well in some form. It's strange for me to be thinking this, but I wonder if I should let bygones be bygones in terms of my old writing. Now, I've been writing for years. I fancy myself a writer at various points, at times doing comic book reviews or being involved in creative writing groups, or writing scripts of various kinds, be they comic book or movie, short film, or whatever. If I go back and essentially update those writings from their original form, something newish for today, am I essentially doing what George Lucas did with the tinkerings that he did to Star Wars? Huge leap of logic, I know. But I'm looking at it with perspective of changing something that was a work of art at one point and updating it since you have some new toys and new perspective for it. Art can be subjective and they're reflective of the life and culture around you at that time. So if you go and you change that, are you really coming at it from the same perspective of what you originally had intended? For example, my writings didn't make nearly as much money for me as compared to the billions that Lucas has, but the thought is still the same. He had no qualms, it seems, about going back and making those changes, which turned out not to be the best. Star Wars had already influenced people in such a way that they made art themselves, either in the fan films, homemade movies, the costumes for Halloween, or the fan fiction they wrote. It feels like Lucas cheapens the idea for what Star Wars was when he went back and made those CGI updates. He was an entirely different person with a different perspective on life in the instances when he originally made it and the later days when CGI tech caught up with what he wanted. He had the financial means and abilities to go back to the original material and change things up to make it look better in context of all the perspective he had gained. Again, losing the perspective of what it was, the challenges that made it so special originally and in its original format. So, long story longer, as my friend Brent used to always famously say, and I'm hoping that he does still, that's where I'm at. I can rehash the old ideas I had for other types of media and present them on the podcast for all to see, essentially what I think are my greatest hits collection when it comes to my writing. But who benefits from that? You can go out and search for those writings yourself if you want, but for me, I'm thinking about diving headfirst into some new materials. Now, weird side note in light of the conclusion that I just came to, but a part of me wants to talk about a book I was writing during the year I was sober. This was just a few years back. Now, I have a lot of parts of it done, and I could probably cobble together something and spend some time and resources into completing it. But I'm not going to. Every time I dive into it, I'm reminded of where I was in life when I was originally writing it. I was writing it up to the end of a relationship that I was in, and when that ended, so stopped the writing. I had the best intentions to get it completed and focus on it as a way to get past everything that was going on there, but trying to get back into it reminded me nothing about what was going on in life, because there was so much about it that was influenced from what was happening around me, and there just isn't enough time between then and now for me to get back into the writing process for that book. Now, the story itself that I was writing was a coming-of-age tale based on a dream that I had had. It involved a teenage, fringe version of me that lived in a small town working at a restaurant. There was going to be a lot of biographical type of stories that I was going to draw from, and at the time, I was really feeling the nostalgia of those restaurant working days. This was a time when work was just stress, 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 and I just remember, those late teenage years when I was working at a restaurant, and it was really simple. It was really straightforward. You go in, punch in the clock, do your thing, and then when time's over, out you go. The story itself was going to follow the transition of the final year of high school and what he would do with his life afterwards. So it very much was going to be a lot of what I was doing at the time. When I was 18, I was like, oh yeah, well, I'll give college a try. And then college really didn't work out. And I would flip between, college, and work, and college, and work for the next few years until eventually I did that enough times where I accidentally got myself an associate's degree from Heartland, the community college that was in the town. When I think about it, we're all storytellers. And some people are better storytellers than others. I like to be spoiled to what the end of the story is. So that way I can see how things are coming together structurally within the story. I like seeing those character arcs and knowing the future for what is happening to them, and if the endpoint of their development makes sense with how the character is moving forward. Anton Chekhov wrote a long time ago about a concept called Chekhov's gun, and it's an approach to fiction writing that everything that is in the story is presented with a reason for it. For example, if a character shows a gun in the first act of the story, it better be fired at some point. I like the ending to Sixth Sense, and I would have enjoyed it better if someone had told me the twist at the end so I can see it coming and get the joy out of what happens to the character along the way. I would have a better appreciation for what M. Night did along the way and can focus on the camera work and other aspects of the film. The whole cobbling together of this story and choosing it in this format and seeing the progression of characters, seeing the camera work, like all that is something that I enjoy more when I know what the end point is with the story. Like I know the story is the most important part, but I want to see all the little other details to show how well a filmmaker knows what they're doing, or, essentially a storyteller knows what he's doing to make this story work. I think about, from time to time when Neil deGrasse Tyson tweets about the sun exploding billions of years from now when it goes supernova, and then he wishes for us all to have a good day. It is that cosmic perspective that I can go digging into the internet trash for those old writings and attempt to reserve it as much as I can, or I can move forward to the future, find a way out of the solar system, humanity in general, and have humanity move forward and beyond that. We only have a few billion years, so why wait? So why continue to drudge up the past with those old stories? Why continue searching for it? Russia being involved or not, or me then being put on some sort of watch list because I go to essentially a Russian website. Why go through all that worry to recover something that I would look at and just be reminded of how amateur I was then, how much better I am now, and I can just create something new. And that is just another short and sweet little podcast. Thank you very much for listening. As always, please feel free to follow us on social media. We are at JETT Theory Radio on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find our YouTube channel where, like I said last time and again this time, watch for some more stuff coming from there, more unique takes, either reactions to trailers, movies, or to the news in general. We'll just put something out there. Like our Facebook page, find us there, and that's pretty much the central hub for a lot of things, as well as our website. That's JETT-theoryradio.com. And with nothing else really to say right now, besides the final, James, take us home. Jet Theory Radio.